At a conference a couple of years ago, I listened to the Quaker theologian Richard Foster say, if we really want to become countercultural people, I suggest, first of all, that we simply shut up and listen. We listen to our neighbor, we listen to the angry, we listen to the fearful, we listen to the bruised and broken. We listen, simply listen. At times, it seems that Jesus takes this approach to a whole new level by perhaps knocking you off your high horse so that you will have no choice but to shut up and listen. He might even blind you by such a bright light that all of the destructive perspectives you've grown accustomed to eventually fall away like scales from your eyes. That's what Jesus did to Saul before he became Paul. Saul was a terrible person. Saul doesn't just persecute Jesus' followers, he breathes threats and murder. His hatred fumes out of him like fire, a fire tended by fear, fear that his tradition will become impure or distorted, fear that the walls he's built around who's in and who's out will crumble, fear that his own hard-earned religiousness will diminish. He's a force of terror sculpted by self-righteousness. He's a religious extremist who has one focus, one aim, one purpose, one way, and it is definitely not the way of Jesus. Saul's tradition told him that Jesus and his way was a colossal threat to the ever so sacred status quo. And it was, because Jesus has his way with Saul. He knocks him down on that road and blinds him with a light too bright to handle and basically tells him to shut up and listen. Maybe Jesus had had enough of Saul's shenanigans. Maybe Jesus wanted to flip the script. Maybe Jesus wanted to show what he could do with the absolute worst. Maybe it was Jesus' way of showing that we're all in this together. Whatever the case, Saul undergoes a conversion experience. And it's not just a conversion from something like Pepsi to Coke or from a car to a minivan. His was a radical conversion from an extremist, supremacist bully to a loving, empathetic disciple. Jesus converts his fear and hatred to empathy and connection. Saul goes from destroying the good news to living the good news. So yes, the way of Jesus was a colossal threat to everything Saul was and did. Some of our own traditions and systems and institutions and comfortable ways of seeing the world are afraid, I believe, like Saul was afraid, of the threat that is the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus is absolutely a threat to the country we live in right now. Because the way of Jesus has always threatened anything that is not life-giving and anyone who gets too high on their horses of hate and prejudice and power. The way of Jesus will threaten yours and mine, our tidy theology, especially your fascination with a future heaven up in the clouds instead of a present heaven down on this road. The way of Jesus will threaten how you choose what you choose to do with the time you have in your life. The way of Jesus will threaten what you think about other people's stories and how you think about their stories. The way of Jesus will threaten how you see the poor and the broken and the lost and all the other folks who seem to be left out. It will basically threaten your lack of empathy. The way of Jesus will also absolutely threaten your tightly held politics. Polis, the Greek root for political, is defined as ordering of society. Now, everything about Jesus' life and teachings and smacking down people like Saul was about the reordering of society. And so everything was political. Just ask Saul how following Jesus and his way will lead you right into the mess of the world, not away from it. You see, as disciples of Jesus Christ, we don't just undergo a single conversion experience. You and I are not one and done. I gave my heart to Jesus a long time ago, and so I'm good. Now, discipleship is a series of conversions. It's being converted from one way to another way, and that happens a bunch of times along the road. It's dying to one view so another view can find light. We all have our list of people that we think should be knocked down and blinded, basically converted, and maybe rightly so. We also may have more Saul in us than we have the guts to admit. The way of Saul pre-Damascus Road was a fighting way. But so is the way of Jesus. It's just a different kind of fight. I'm not sure how or why or when Christianity became so tame and sanitized, given its origins with the supposed scum of society, how Jesus spent his time fighting for the people for whom life was not easy. Jesus' way picks a fight with how too many things have gone wrong with God's world, and that God insists and keeps insisting loudly and relentlessly on our putting them right again. It insists that we shut up and listen. And sometimes that can only happen if we get knocked down and blinded by Jesus' light. Then, like Saul, we get ignited with a new mission to pour out God's grace wherever humans try to limit it. There's a saying from the Talmud, the record of rabbinic writings, that goes, "Do not be dismayed by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." So, friends, may Jesus have his way with you. May you brace yourself to get knocked down from destructive ways and blinded to incomplete views. May you be ready to shut up and listen to your neighbor, to the angry, to the fearful, to the bruised and broken, to every human life that has been pushed out to the margins. And once the scales fall from your eyes and adjust to the illuminating light of Jesus and his way, may you see and live and fight with clear eyes and full hearts. That is the way of Jesus.